Today we celebrate the feast of St. Lawrence, who was a deacon and martyr. St. Lawrence was the deacon under Pope St. Sixtus, and we just celebrated his feast day the other day. And if you were at Mass that day, you heard me talk about how Lawrence saw him going off to death and said, "Where are you going without your deacon?" And he says, "Don't worry, you'll be following me shortly." And he did. And we look at St. Lawrence as he was taking care of the poor, the sick in the city of Rome, and he knew at that time that to do that, to be a Christian, was to be a marked man, marked for death most likely. And so the emperor went to him and says, "I want you to give me the treasures of the church, or else." So he says, "Give me 3 days, because it'll take me that long to gather them." Well, he did gather the treasures of the church, and of course the emperor, in his greed, said, "Yep, that much treasure? Ooh, 3 days worth to try to prepare to take it all together." And in that time, he gave away much of the monetary wealth of the church to those who were poor, those who were in need, and he gathered the poor and the sick and the lame into the square before the emperor, and he says, "This is the treasure of the church. These are the treasures." And that's why we have in the first reading today from St. Paul's second letter to the Corinthians about how St. Paul is talking about how he's trying to take up this collection for the poor. We see how St. Lawrence so took care of the poor. Now, the emperor didn't particularly think that was very appropriate. He thought he was being made fun of, and so, of course, he had Lawrence put to death. And as the story goes, that put him on the gridiron to be burned to death slowly. And at one point, Lawrence even had that sense of humor to be able to say, "Turn me over, I'm done on this side." The grace of God moving even in the midst of these horrible things. He was able to look beyond where he was in that moment. Jesus tells us today, "Amen, amen, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains just a grain of wheat. But if it dies, it produces much fruit." And so often in our lives, we would rather remain a grain of wheat than to produce the fruit of the kingdom. And the Lord invites us to die. Yes, of course, whatever that looks like at the end of our lives here on earth, dying in that way. But there are so many things we have to die to. In my prayer this morning, I was talking to the Lord and saying, what do I need to die to in my life in order to be holy, in order to get close to you? Let me tell you, there's no shortage of suggestions from the Lord. When they're looking and saying, "Okay, you need to get rid of this, and you need to cut out this, and you need to work more on this," and okay, what do you want me to do first? Lord, give me the love for you, that I may long to do this for love of you, and give me the courage and the strength and the fortitude I need in order to do it. Through the intercession of St. Lawrence, may we be willing to die to whatever part of our lives is clinging to the things of this world, so that we may produce much fruit for the kingdom, for love of Jesus.